Welcome to the Midgard Press. My name's Jay. All right, so we are going to cover session 1 of my Online Dragonbane campaign. So I had originally intended for us to follow the Adventures book all the way through. But it changed. But that's next session. We'll talk about that. The first session, that's next episode, the next session. This episode, this session, Drakemore Pass, or Drakemore Pass, however you want to say it. I don't really care. It's kind of like Brandon Sanderson. He was quoted in an interview basically like he creates the names and people will ask him like, well, how do you say it properly? And he'll ask them like, well, how do you say it? And he says, that's how you say it. Like he has his own way of saying it, of course, but he doesn't care if people mispronounce it. And honestly, I murder names all day long. I'm terrible at saying things correctly the first way. So, Drakemore Pass. The players started off down here at the bottom of the pass. And I told them that essentially they're not a party, okay? They are not a party whatsoever. They are simply walking through the pass at the same time. It just so happens to be coincidental. Your players meet in a tavern. No, they met in Drakemore Pass. But as they met in Drakemore Pass, again, they were just kind of walking, beside each other at various points. They encountered a man, which you can see right here from the image. This right here, this guy. Yeah, he was crying in agony because he had a black arrow, right in his chest. So essentially what's to happen is the players are supposed to walk by this person and lend a hand, essentially, whether it's do a medicine check, see if they're okay, see if there's anything they can do to help this person that's in agony. That's what they were supposed to do. And they did, actually. A couple of them actually stopped. So a couple of them hung back a little bit because they're like, this is a little suspicious, a little sus. A couple of them were right here, but two of them actually continued to walk on. Like they were just like, yeah, we don't care. Now in total, let me think of how many players I had session 1. Six players. I had 6 players. Yeah, 6 players. So 2 hung back, 2 were by the dying man, and 2 continued on. Now, this is where the ambush happens, and they get ambushed by goblins of all characters. One of my favorites. You'll notice that there is a 2 and then a 3. And it's basically 2 groups of goblins. It's 1 for every player character, but 3 were down at 2, 3 were at 3, and they attacked. Now, a lot had ensued at that because we were I had a couple people who had never played Dragonbane before, so they were learning the first time how to play it now. Mostly my online campaign, my players are made up of people who have played either in session, like in-person session games with me, like multiple. I've run at least 20 sessions of Dragonbane at this point. I love Dragonbane. So two of the players have been in multiple of my in-person games. Two more players had been in multiple of my online one-shots, just stuff that I've run here and there. And then I had two players. This was their first time playing Dragonbane at all. And it's a very easy system. If you haven't heard me talk about it, trust me, it's a very easy system to pick up. Go back and check out my Dragonbane series. I have like 50 something videos now talking about the mechanics of the game, the monsters of the game, and here soon we're going to be getting into the adventures. So we'll be talking about, these basically. But yeah, so they were doing pretty good. With the goblins, they're treated as NPCs. They're not technically monsters, so they do not auto hit like the monsters do. You actually have to roll for their attacks. Now, the first round went off where I think two goblins actually died, like just like that. I'm pretty sure. Two players had taken some damage, and it was going to the next turn. We were drawing initiative again, but at the top of the second turn, the warg rider, which is the goblin commander, shows up and appears at number 4, so right up here. So at this point, we've got like 4 goblins left. 4 goblin scouts, I should say, and then we have the warg rider, and still 6 players. It was an interesting combat. The goblins were going down pretty quickly. The warg rider was actually holding its own for a little bit. One of my players actually went down went unconscious. So we were doing death saves for that person. Now, when you're doing death saves, there's a couple things that you can do where you can rally, another player character can rally the downed player character. But of course, they failed every single time. The player themselves can rally themselves, but at a Bane on persuasion, failed every time. And then the players could also do healing checks on the character, but it's at a Bane because they don't have bandages. It took legit, so combat finished, okay? So they beat all 6 goblins. They defeated the warg rider, okay? But it still took like 15, 20 minutes just for them to save one of their unconscious party members. Like, it was ridiculous. It was hilarious, really, to be honest. Like, they kept rolling, kept rolling, kept rolling. Couldn't get it to save the kid's life. No pun intended. You know how the saying goes. And it's at that moment and this is why it was such a good moment. It was a good learning lesson, because first combat, somebody went down. Okay, let's get that understood. They took care of all the goblins. They slayed all 7 of them. But one player character went down. Now, like I said, it took about 15 minutes for them to get that said character back up. And then they did a short rest. They all short rested. A couple of them used their mementos to get an extra d6 of HP. But they realized that, one, they need to start using their advancement marks potentially towards either persuasion or towards healing. But they also learned that they need to buy some bandages when they get a chance, whenever they see the next vendor that's selling them. Like, I I have chaotic players, and you'll find out why they are chaotic next episode. But I have very chaotic players, but they're not dumb by no means. They are very intelligent. They know, they know how to do things, plain and simple. And that's why I love them. I really do love my players. Like, let's see, three of them are dungeon masters, game masters, whatever you want to call them. One of them should be a game master, but she just hasn't pulled that trigger yet. Like, I know she would enjoy it. She just hasn't pulled that trigger yet. And one of them is a fanatical player, like phenomenal player. She is fantastic. I taught her how to play D&D 5th edition like 2 years ago. She's been playing consistently ever since. She plays any TTRPG she can. And then we had a new person, like brand new to TTRPGs. So I've got some experienced people in my party, okay? Like, as a GM, sometimes it's hard to run games for other GMs because they you have that perception in your head, like, well, I can do this, or I can do that, I can do that, I can do this. But my friends, they're not like that. They're All of them are great players. They really are. I love them. I really do love them. But anyways, so after they finally healed their friend and got them up, they talked to this man, Master Weatherman. They inspected him, found that he had a black arrow. They, he had only mentioned a couple things. Tell Lorana that I found it. Give her this, and basically pushed this package into their hands. And spoilers, it has a piece of the statue and a map of the entire valley. So it's very helpful. But as soon as Master Weatherman tells them to get it to Lorana, tell Lorana that she'll understand, da 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 da, so on and so forth, gives them the package. Oh, yeah, Weatherman's dead. No more words. So the party really, I mean, they don't have to. They could just be like, okay, cool, throw it to the side. Like, they could easily just not go to find Lorana. They really could. But I know my players, they will attempt to do the quest before they get sidetracked. They will. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire first session. Because again, like I said, there was a couple people that this was the first time playing Dragonbane, and when combat itself takes about an hour, and then you have another 15 minutes of trying to save one person because nobody can roll lower than a 5, yeah, it takes a while. It takes a while. But I loved it. I absolutely loved the first session. We had gotten several advancement marks. I think it was 7. I think that's what it was. Because every time you roll a 1, every time you roll a 20, you get an advancement mark towards, your skill checks. So they were able to roll those as well. And we called it a night. We went ahead, and instead of continuing on, we just left it where it was so that we could start fresh the next time or the next session. So that is where I will leave you all. So if you can, like this video, comment down below if you've played the opening scene. If you have, that's what it's called, legit, the opening scene. Let me know if you played the opening scene, how it worked for you all. I'm very curious. But yeah, until next time, my friends, as always, live on, and game on.